Oh boy, we are about to have a fascinating conversation. I mean, I just took one last glance at my notes before filming, and I am still shocked at the conclusion that I came to while writing them. Oh, the journey that we're going to go on, it's going to be a real eye-opener, all right? But where we're starting this journey is where many of you are in your gut right now, where I was when I began my notes, and that's being real excited for Kathleen Kennedy to get what's coming to her, and that is a decisive box office loss with Solo, a Star Wars story, because that's what she's got going for her right now. Decisive box office wins. Like, no matter what complaints you might have creatively about the Star Wars movies, there's no arguing that they are massive financial hits. So many Star Wars fans now believe, and I think correctly, that it would take a decisive box office failure to either shock Kathleen Kennedy into changing her ways, or at least the people that she reports to, who are, by the way, if you don't know this, Alan Horn runs the entire Disney movie division, and then he reports to Bob Iger. So it goes Bob Iger, Alan Horn, who, by the way, used to work at Warner Brothers. His daughter was in the first Magic Mike movie, interestingly enough. A little trivia fact for you there. And then Kathleen Kennedy runs Star Wars. Kevin Feige runs Marvel, and a gentleman named Sean Bailey runs Disney live-action movies. So there's the hierarchy for you. So those are the two guys who are the ones who could say to Kathleen Kennedy, "You gotta change it up." But it looks like in the last couple of days, thanks to some very convincing headlines, we don't know if they're true. We'll find out when the movie actually opens. But that Kathleen Kennedy could get the last laugh once again and continue on her merry way. I would also like to take a moment to point out, especially in the wake of Avengers Infinity War, that while Kevin Feige has the absolute unwavering and aggressive support of hardcore Marvel fans, Kathleen Kennedy actually finds herself at war now with her hardcore Star Wars fan base. And that's thanks to a little movie called The Last Jedi, aka The Search for Gas, aka Rey's parentage actually isn't important. Like, we're not even trying to make a point with it. Like, heroes can come from anywhere. I mean, you could argue that's the point, but the movie doesn't make it. Or also, aka Luke Skywalker is not just a murderer, but an incompetent one. And look, this is from somebody who really enjoyed The Last Jedi, but I certainly can see that it has rampant flaws. All of which, by the way, I think hardcore fans would have easily and happily overlooked, just as Marvel fans overlook. The flaws aren't quite as bad as The Last Jedi, but I think they're pretty egregious in Infinity War. But anyway, if Star Wars The Last Jedi had just given fans one kick-ass Luke Skywalker fight scene, I think we'd be having a very different conversation right now about Kathleen Kennedy and how the Star Wars hardcore fans feel about her. That's all it would have taken. And I think in some ways, their indignation is warranted, because when she was just reading the script, that it didn't occur to her to give this iconic character one last hurrah. And in fact, he's never had an amazing, I'm talking like he's been built up all this time as like one of the most amazing Jedi to ever live. And we literally never got to see him in action at his peak performance. That's crazy. That's insane. And but it happened. It's the reality that Star Wars fans now find themselves living in. But I'm talking about hardcore Star Wars fans. Since I was still able to enjoy The Last Jedi, that makes me a Star Wars moderate. And in fact, many moviegoers, like many voters, they are also moderates. And it seems that those moderates are set to power Solo, a Star Wars story, to not just a huge opening weekend for Memorial Day, but a record-breaking one at $170 million plus dollars. And to prove it, and you better believe it's Disney behind these headlines, right? They're getting the momentum going. They're making it seem like resistance is futile, right? That your rebellion is going as poorly as the ones in the new movies. That's my biggest sticking point. That I sat through, and enjoyed the original Star Wars films, but yet everything they accomplished there was for nothing. It was squandered. It's really frustrating. But they want to make it seem like, you can sit the movie out, but it's not going to accomplish anything, so you might as well go, right? So we have a number of headlines, and to prove the point, because most people are saying, I don't believe it, right? I mean, nobody believes those pre-sale ticket headlines. They're saying, oh, it's the biggest pre-seller ever, second only to Avengers Infinity War, doubling Black Panther's ticket sales. Yet when many of us log on to see what the ticket situation is actually like, there are a lot of legit empty theaters. So the trades, and they got this information from somewhere, I suspect Disney, have been releasing the very rarely seen spot polling numbers that they do to decide how a movie's going to do before it opens. We've discussed that these polls take place before, but they're rarely ever reported to the public. In fact, it's so rare that we've never discussed them before, but that's going to change today, thanks to a little movie called Solo and a PR department that's pretty darn savvy called Disney. So the first number we're going to discuss is something called the Unaided Awareness Score. This is so interesting. All right, and what that means is that it's not the person being asked the questions in the poll is not prompted by the poller, meaning like, Solo, that new Star Wars movie about Han Solo. They don't have to do that. They just say, have you heard of Solo? And that's all they ask, and then the person says yes or no. Well, Solo has a score of 28. Now, obviously, that's probably out of 100, especially when you see the next score that we're going to go over. And that seems stupid low, right? But consider the fact that Rogue One and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, a sequel, only had unaided awareness scores of 23, right? So that just goes to show you how many people out there who are potential moviegoers aren't as tuned into what's going on as that hardcore group of not only fans but moviegoers is. All right, so that's the unaided awareness score. Then there's the definite interest score, right? So they ask you like definite interest, moderate interest, and then probably not going to go, etc. So the definite interest score for Solo is 55. And to give you some perspective, Spider-Man Homecoming, I think it's interesting, by the way, that's the big giveaway here. All the reference numbers are for other Disney movies. So Disney obviously is the one who supplied these numbers, right? So Spider-Man Homecoming had a definite interest of just 53. And still, men over and under 25 are the lead demo. But again, this is all, we'll see who actually turns up. I think these numbers are coming from Disney, so we'll have to see who actually shows up to the theater. And when you have third-party like CinemaScore organizations getting the grades and seeing who the demographics are ethnicity-wise and age-wise, who's actually turning up. But so that's a really, it's so Machiavellian of Disney. They're like, oh yeah, everyone's going. And you know who's going? Men are going. So that's who we believe is actually rebelling against us. So you guys, it's not worth your time. Go see Solo. All right, so now that you know what the headlines are and how this is supposedly going into its opening weekend, let's take a look at where both sides in this argument stand, right? So we'll start with Kathleen Kennedy, a true Sith Lord to many. Now, Memorial Day weekend, we've been talking a long time about how this was a horrible release date for this movie because typically it's a soft weekend because it's Memorial Day and people actually want to go out, be outside and not be in a movie theater. But this turned out actually to be a great release date for this movie because the bar is set real low in terms of previous openings. I mean, over a whole 4-day period, all that Kathleen Kennedy has to beat is a measly $139.8 million that was achieved by Pirates 3. So that was a long time ago. That's how long it's taken to break. No one's broken this record since. Interestingly, another Disney movie, but legit this time. Those are black and white numbers. Now, speaking of 4 days, with no other wide release that weekend, not a single wide release, and of course, many people going to see Deadpool 2 the weekend it opens, that is a long, barren stretch of summer holiday weekend to avoid going to the movies, especially if you're someone who is so inclined usually to do so, and that's hardcore Star Wars fans. So I think the chances are pretty good that even the most determined Star Wars hater will break by Sunday evening. All right, now also in a time when studios are accused of giving away too much of a movie, Solo has played it awfully close to the vest. In fact, that's even been a talking point lately for replacement director Ron Howard, a director that no one could hate, no matter whose job he took. No matter what picket line he crossed, right? You just can't hate Opie. This is a talking point that perhaps Disney gave to him. And he was like, I'm so happy with the way he actually said this, that Disney has been handling the PR for this movie. They haven't given anything away. It looks like a fun time. He actually said it represents what the movie's like, but there's so much you have not seen. So this does not give Star Wars fans the out of saying, oh, I've seen the whole movie. You haven't. So that makes it all the more tempting to buy that ticket. Even if you hear spoilers, you still haven't felt that you've seen it. So there's a genuine surprise waiting for you, good or bad. And then Donald Glover has proven to be an incredible secret weapon for this film. I hope he gets the fattest bonus check ever written. Because not only does he actually look like a younger version of the character that he's playing, what a novel idea, but he's on fire right now. Not only does he have Atlanta, enjoying a very successful and critically lauded second season, but he's just coming off the 1-2 punch. It was a bit early, but it's still, I think, within range of his not only hosting SNL gig, but his new music video, This Is America, which in just a matter of days, I think about 4 days actually, the amount of time Solo will have been playing by this point, has raked up 50 million views on YouTube. Deservedly so, but that's amazing. And who's doing the behind-the-scenes tour of the Millennium Falcon in theaters right now during the pre-show entertainment? That would be Donald Glover, showing off Lando's cape closet. A cape closet. Tickets sold right there, I'm sure, for many. Side note, it will be interesting to see how many black moviegoers see Solo. Because despite her SJW tactics, Kathleen Kennedy has actually driven black viewership of the franchise to be the lowest demographic, especially for Last Jedi. That's because Finn was promised to be a Jedi, speaking of Jedi, but he turned out just to be a space janitor who seems to have never completed his stormtrooper training. I don't know how he got promoted. Do you? I see no evidence of it. But Lando could be a character that really turns things around. And by the way, he did a very funny sketch about how few black characters are in Star Wars when he hosted SNL. I think it was one of the stronger sketches of the evening. That and his Kanye West A Quiet Place one. But anyway, what's at stake for Kathleen Kennedy? Well, not only does she want to continue to have free reign to keep making this Star Wars universe over literally in her own image, right? But also a successful Solo movie would open the door to continue to recast younger versions of other iconic characters from the original films. One source told me, deep off the record though, so I can't really get into it, but that they are considering a young Princess Leia movie. And we ain't talking hologram. I would actually probably be interested in seeing that. The Princess Leia comic book's not bad. If they cast it well, if they did a good casting job, I think that it could work. We'll talk about Alden Ehrenreich momentarily. But also, another side note, just make the damn Obi-Wan movie already. Ewan McGregor's sitting right there. No hologram needed. No recasting needed. Again. And also, he's only aging into the role. So it's just stupid that they have not made they keep saying, it's finally like on deck to some degree, but it's not moving forward as aggressively as I think it should be. All right, so on that note, everybody wanting an Obi-Wan movie, let's flip over to the fans and see where they stand. So their complaints, I think they're very valid complaints. It's crazy that they continue to fall on deaf ears over at the new Lucasfilm. They're upset that female characters are being forcefully put front and center while male characters are benched. So it's female characters advancing at the expense of male characters. In a franchise where men have been the dominant, faithful fan base for decades. And then also, there's been disrespectful rushed treatment of the original iconic characters. It's almost a bait and switch. Oh, do you want to see Han Solo, the original Han Solo again? Here he is. Oh, now he's gone. Because in a big FU to the franchise, and fans no less, because Harrison Ford's like, you ain't bringing me back again, and I have found a way to make sure that's the case. Although he is being resurrected first by Alden Ehrenreich, so maybe again, Kathleen Kennedy does have the last laugh. And then also popular fan theories being ignored in favor of just one man's theories, right? They don't seem to ring that true to the Star Wars brand. And that's when we do get answers. Many answers are still left unrevealed. So anyway, Kathleen Kennedy's Star Wars movies are still some of the most successful films of all time. So successful that multiple Star Wars lands are being built across the globe as we speak, including a Westworld-style hotel where guests can actually have a 24/7 Star Wars immersive experience complete with character interactions. That's amazing, right? So what's at stake for the hardcore fans here is what kind of Star Wars will they continue to see on the big screen and be able to actually visit in the real world. The classic Star Wars that they initially fell in love with and made the juggernaut that it is today. I mean, don't forget that George Lucas built his empire on merchandising sales because 20th Century Fox didn't know how lucrative they were. They were the first of their kind. That's how he was able to do Industrial Light and Magic, et cetera, and the whole takeoff with Indiana Jones and all that. That's all due to merchandising money, which comes directly from fans who want to buy, want to have more stuff from the world that they love. So that's all them. But it looks like that they're going to get the new Star Wars. That's what they're going to be stuck with. And this is why fan theories are so important. Some of you might be like, So who cares if they don't listen to the fans? The fans aren't writing this. We don't want fan fiction. Well, fans, you have to incorporate it a little bit, and this is something I think Marvel, as they deepen their mythology, should also be aware of. But Marvel has the benefit of coming off of the comics, so fans expect things from the comics, and so it's not a secret. And also, Marvel doesn't have to feel that they've bended to the will of the fans because everyone's following the same Bible, and that's the comics. But they got rid of the Star Wars canon stories, and so this is new ground that's being broken, and there's a real tug of war as to how Star Wars story should be told. But by ignoring fan theories, Kathleen Kennedy is making it seem like not only is their viewership not important with that really notorious comment about how she feels she doesn't owe male fans anything, but also she doesn't care for their input either. I mean, talk about really slamming the door in a fandom's face. But this is where things get very interesting. You might be like, I'm still angry, Grace. What are you talking about? This ends in an exciting and unexpected place, this conversation. Well, Solo is the first new Star Wars movie to feature a male lead. And not just a male lead, but also strong male supporting characters. One of them, a black character, who is a total 180 of the incompetent, bumbling Finn, right? And also a male villain. So, granted, many fans have felt that Alden Ehrenreich is the weakest element in the trailers, and he's been used sparingly to promote the film. But I think that's because hopefully the situation will be that they don't want to scare us away with Alden Ehrenreich's interpretation of Han Solo, but they're hoping that we'll fall in love with it when we do see it. Because look, I think even from the trailers that we've seen, there are moments where he seems to shine. I love when he says to Chewie, "Oh, what do you know?" right after asking him a question. And I think there is a small chance, but potentially a strong one, that Alden Ehrenreich could actually succeed in making this character his own. What a coup that would be, not only for him, but for Kennedy, and the idea of, again, recasting younger versions of these characters. But still, this is a male character. So if Solo is not just a hit, but a huge hit, that'll work more in the favor, I believe, of fans than Kathleen Kennedy, because Solo is the most traditional Star Wars movie that she's made yet, and tellingly, the most problematic. Oh, that could be fascinating. So what's your position on Solo? Again, I said it's complex, so I look forward to hearing your thoughts down below. And are you planning to see it opening weekend? Why or why not? Again, share those thoughts down below. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.